RK Walker here at NASDAQ Marketsite with an exclusive Financial Buzz interview. Alongside me today is Denis Corin, CEO of Q BioMed Inc. Welcome, Denis.
Thanks, RK. Nice to be with you today.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your company?
Sure. Q BioMed, we're still a fairly young company. We've been around 3 years. Really spawned out of the idea that I felt like with my experience in the biotech world and seeing a number of small cap biotech companies kind of rise and fall under their own weight in the capital markets, that we could structure a really well put together capital structured company that could go out and raise capital and then go and look for innovative ideas in the biotech space and help to accelerate them to some kind of monetization or catalyst that would deliver value for our shareholders and the stakeholders and some of the inventors of those technologies. So it's a little bit of a different model to your typical biotech that would start with an idea or an invention or some kind of discovery in a lab and then spend many years developing that and then grow up into being a public company. This has kind of started from the public company or the investor-focused standpoint first, and then gone and look for some of those innovative ideas that we thought we could deliver value to our shareholders by providing strategic resources and capital to those ideas and those assets.
What's your background specifically?
So I'm really an economist by degree, but I really cut my teeth over the last 15 years in the pharmaceutical space. I started with big pharma like Novartis and Beckman Coulter, mostly in their sales organizations, and then got into the small cap biotech world, sort of managing small businesses and then getting into the financing side of the business, learning how to capital structure the companies, raise the capital for those companies and those assets. And as I said, just sort of learned through the school of hard knocks in the biotech world and on what we thought would be a good way and a good model to put together a successful biotech venture.
That's interesting. You said your business model is kind of opposite, where you, instead of starting from scratch, you find undervalued ideas and fund them, correct?
Yes.
Why don't you give us some examples of what you've done?
So in the short 3 years that we've been here, we built a pipeline of 4 products. One of them is a platform technology, so there are several assets underneath that one as well. But the idea was to have multiple therapeutics in different therapeutic areas. So we're not really one of those one-trick ponies or one specific therapeutic area that we're focused in. We really look for opportunity wherever it presents itself. So we'll go and look for assets that we think are just undervalued or underappreciated or underfunded and see if the technology first, the science has to be exemplary and really have a chance of being successful, and then look at the ways that we can deliver some kind of accelerated timeline or developmental model to those to deliver shareholder value for our shareholders and ultimately bring those products closer to the patient. So in the short 3 years that we've been in business, we now have 4 assets. One of them is commercial, and we've recently acquired an asset to bolster that segment of the market from GE Healthcare, and this is in the pain palliation space. It's a non-opiate injectable radiopharmaceutical for the treatment of metastatic disease, so cancers that have spread to the bone, and this is a tremendously debilitating and painful condition to endure. And sadly, these patients are really heavily dosed on opiates. So in this climate where everybody's asking physicians and clinicians and caregivers to re-examine their use of opiates and the heavy use of opiates, this is a really unique molecule, a really unique treatment. It's very, very effective, and it's been used for 20 odd years already. So we think there's a really great opportunity to remarket this brand and bring some attention back to this brand and really help these patients. We've spoken to doctors during our due diligence that have called this drug their Lazarus drug in some cases, where you have patients really debilitated with pain, but a single injection of strontium or metastron sort of has them up and back at their sort of normal everyday living within a week, and the pain palliation can last up to a year in some cases. So it's a really significant drug and really helpful for those patients, and we're excited to be bringing that back into the market. The drug is approved in 22 countries around the world. We acquired it from GE, and right now we're ramping up manufacturing facilities here in the US to be able to provide that product here in the US as well as internationally in the very near term. We have 3 other drugs. One of the sort of biggest opportunities I feel is a drug we call QBM001. This is a drug for the treatment of very young children that are on the autistic spectrum with a disorder that renders them minimally or non-verbal. So they grow up and they're unable to speak and communicate with their peers and their parents. It's a very sad and emotional condition to endure. And sadly, these kids grow up in assisted living. The cost to the healthcare system is in excess of $200 billion a year as these patients age and are not able to speak and have to rely on assisted living in the healthcare system. And we found that there's a potential therapeutic for these kids if they're treated really young, between the age of 2 and 5 years old, to ameliorate those conditions neurologically that are causing migraines and seizures that result in them withdrawing further into their autistic states and not learning how to speak as a typical 2-year-old would.
Is this a drug that gets injected?
This will be a drug that will be taken in a sprinkle format. You know, these are autistic kids, and sometimes a little bit difficult to get them to take medicine. So it has to be formulated in a very specific way. It's a multi-compound drug, and actually with a very well-known active ingredient. So we're hoping to get this into a 505(b)(2) clinical pathway, which means a very accelerated pathway through the FDA. And within 2 years from today, we think we'll have an NDA or the opportunity to be commercializing this drug. So this will be a great year in terms of catalysts for that as well. We're hoping to file a pre-IND in the next couple of weeks, and then follow that with an IND and hopefully start the clinical trial in the summer of this year. And it'll be a fairly short clinical program, about 12 months. So as I said, within about 2 years, we could have this drug ready for those patients. And there are only about 50,000 around the world, so it's a small but rare disease, and orphan drug application is something we'll be looking at as well. And all of these catalysts will come up this year as we make those applications and put this drug into the clinic.
You also have something for glaucoma.
Correct. So the platform technology here is a Type 2 platform. This was one of those medical discoveries that almost happened by accident. The doctor and clinician who was working on this, Dr. Quagan at Northwestern and the Feinberg Medical Institute, is actually a nephrologist primarily, and she was looking at treating kidney diseases with this particular molecule, and saw that in her early stage discovery that these animals that were induced with disease had very severe glaucoma, and when treated, their glaucoma was cured, it disappeared. And they said, wow, that's a massive market to look at. So we shifted our focus, and we partnered with Manon to develop this as an open-angle glaucoma treatment primarily, but essentially works on pretty much any leaky vessel type of disease. So any vascular disease, whether it's cardiovascular disease, where you need to more effectively help fluid flow through the body, could be influenza, something even like Ebola, cystic kidney diseases. So it's a platform technology that'll have many indications in it, but our primary objective right now is to advance the glaucoma molecule, which we've now gotten down to the very last few molecules to select. And we just partnered with Dr. Heather Sheardown at McMaster University to help us with the final formulation, which would be a topical eye drop. One of the big things with glaucoma is having a drug that's easy to use and doesn't have to be injected into the eye, which is very uncomfortable. So a topical eye drop is what we're going after, and Dr. Sheardown and her team are going to help us with that final formulation step to make it sure it's penetrable into the eye and gets right to the very specific vessels that it needs to be an effective therapeutic. And that's a huge market. 70 million patients around the world, probably going to be about 100 million over the next 5 years. There really is a massive demand for new therapeutics in this space. Up until middle of last year, there'd been no new drugs developed in the glaucoma space for over 20 years. So Ares' new drug, Repressa, came to market last year. They have a $2 billion market cap now, I believe. So it really just goes to show there's a huge demand for new and innovative therapies in this space, and we think this is a really great first-in-class molecule and an opportunity for us to bring something to that space. Now,
to your advisory boards, you've been adding doctors. Why don't you tell me a little bit, what are you trying to accomplish? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, so it's really important. I never claim to be the smartest person in the room, and I almost never am when you're around the caliber of people that we have on our team and within our sort of corporate mind, so to speak. And I've been really encouraged by the willingness of some of these real industry experts and academic experts who've wanted to team up with us and our programs and help to bring these products closer to the patients. So we really have a tremendously talented and high caliber set of clinical advisors and clinicians that are working on all of these projects with us. It's an honor that they've chosen us to work with.
What are your plans, goals for this year and then beyond?
This should be a tremendous year for Q BioMed. We've spent the last 3 years developing this platform and this pipeline of drugs. And this year should be really exceptional in that this will be our first year that we expect to generate revenue with both the Metastron brand that we acquired from GE and our own licensed strontium chloride 89 drug in the cancer pain palliation market. We're just awaiting FDA approval of the manufacturing of the contract manufacturing facility in South Texas to actually produce that drug and be able to sell that locally in the US, and then expand that to the 22 countries that the drug is approved in the rest of the world. So that'll be a huge milestone and a great catalyst for us as we start to hit that milestone and bring those commercial opportunities to bear. Our autism spectrum disorder drug, QBM001, we expect to be filing the IND in the very near term here and starting that clinical trial in the summertime or late summer. And again, I think that will be a great catalyst for us this year as we enter the clinic with that program that really validates our program with the FDA and gives us an opportunity to bring that closer to the patients. And as I mentioned, it's a fairly rapid clinical program too. So, you know, we're not looking at several years in the clinic here, really just 18 months or so in the clinic with this drug. So that's pretty rapid in the biotech world. Most companies spend, you know, 7 or 8 years and $100 million in the clinic, and this will be significantly quicker and much cheaper than that to bring to market. And our glaucoma asset, as you mentioned, is a platform technology, and because of the platform and the multiple disease states that it addresses, we've seen some really nice preliminary interest from larger pharmaceutical players that have shown interest in the platform and also in the glaucoma molecule specifically, as there's been a lot of aggregation or consolidation in the ophthalmology space. Big companies are buying their pipelines now, as you're well aware, and I'm sure your viewers are aware as well. So, you know, smaller companies like us that are developing these proof of concept drugs are really positioning ourselves really well for bigger pharma interest, and we've certainly seen some of that in the Mannan molecule as well. So there could be some additional business development opportunities and catalysts that come up this year in that space.
Interesting. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. I'd like to thank again our guest, Denis Corin, CEO of Q BioMed. I'm RK Walker. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you again next time.